Sam is also a member of a number of councils and boards, and most importantly, a third-generation accountant in their family since they started the practice in Uganda. Sam, welcome to say hello to the viewers.
Good morning, everyone. And I promise you we are not talking about accountancy, although you've got two accountants presenting. The day is going to be filled with information for you with regards to what we need to do to be ready, and are we ready for the biggest aspect of Uganda's history, which is the development of the oil and gas sector. Now, without further ado, what I would like to do is I want us to go ahead and introduce a person that needs very little introduction, really. Dr. Honorable Elly Karuhanga. I'm sure you have heard the name. If you have not, you're going to hear a lot more of it over these 90 days anyway, and beyond. He is our chairman of the council. He is a prolific lawyer, work with and partner of KAA, and he is going to deliver a pre-recorded message for us explaining and to introduce the idea of being the aspects of regional preparedness for oil and gas development. We have got a lot of items on for you today, so I hope you enjoy the show, and let's move straight into our first video clip of Dr. Honorable Elly Karuhanga.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you so much for finding time to be part of this 6th annual convention on oil and gas. My name is Elly Karuhanga. I'm chairman of the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. I welcome you to the conference, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the board and management of the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. We always take a long time to prepare for this conference. We are so pleased that we have got both a full house of viewers of national and international audience. Fellow viewers, we are about to have 2 days of exciting presentations, and here coming from well-selected presenters. So let me start with kicking off the protocol. Your Excellency President Museveni, thank you so much for, in spite of your very busy schedule, plus a high political season, when our friends are fighting for their political lives. Thank you for finding time to be with us. We can't thank you enough for steering the ship of oil and gas, and now we can see it dock. Thank you for joint venture partners. Thank you, Total. Thank you, CNOC. Thank you, Talo. Thank you, government officials. Thank you, Minister of Energy. Thank you, Petroleum Authority of Uganda, and our colleagues at the Uganda National Oil Company. All of you are present in this conference. The speakers that are going to speak are all very well schooled. With you, we are also going to hear His Excellency Jules Armand Aniambosu, the Ambassador of France. We are also going to be addressed by Mr. Nicolas Therese, the Senior Vice President of Africa in Total E&P, who will be represented by the country manager, our friend, Mr. Pierre Jessua. We have key highlights in this conference. It is not going to be easy for you to get off your chair and go and do something else. We want you to participate and be ready and partake in the opening of this opportunity for our country and for Tanzania. I want to thank President Magufuli and President Museveni again for agreeing to get this product out of Uganda to the world markets through Thakkar. I want to thank them for agreeing to have cross-border activities, both of people and goods and services, and to allow our assets to go to Tanzania and come back without being interrupted by official barriers. I want to appeal to Ugandans to be ready for enjoying what the government has ring-fenced for us. I want to thank Ugandans for preparing for a long time. Some of you have lost money, but now please be ready. I want to thank the financial industry for giving us and preparing to work with us. I want to thank the insurance companies, the legal services, the people who have played professional work. I want to thank the 3,771 people who have agreed to vacate the road of the pipeline so that they can settle elsewhere. I want to thank you, Ugandans, for preparing to receive what God and Mother Nature put underground for us in oil and gas, mining and minerals. We are going to have a wonderful, wonderful conference. I'm so proud of what we at the Chamber are doing. I want to thank my colleagues in the private sector in its entirety for being part of this long story. We have spent the last month, we have been advertising every day on NBS, 90 days, trying to prepare your mind so that you are ready to partake. We will continue to do this until the end of November. Thank you. Let's sit back now and listen to His Excellency, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the General, the President of the Republic of Uganda, who has been always our patron, supporter, and anchor. Your Excellency, President Museveni, address.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard that beautiful and very warming introduction. Let us now go straight into, as you heard Honorable Karuhanga mention, let us go straight to a recorded message from His Excellency, which was done specifically for us today. So I will request that we move straight in there. Let's listen to our President's words with regards to our oil and gas sector and this program.
Honorable Ministers and honorable members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the Thakkar Senior Vice President for Africa, the leadership of Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government and the people of Uganda, I welcome you to this oil and gas convention. I extend a special warm welcome to the international delegates tuned into this event across the globe. I wish to recognize and appreciate the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, together with all the other partners, for organizing this oil and gas event. The conference is happening at a critical time in Uganda, where tremendous progress has been made towards finalization of negotiations leading to the final investment decision, FID, for Uganda's oil and gas projects, which is expected by the end of this year. The FID is expected by the end of this year. Progress has also been made in taking forward the key projects leading up to first oil. These projects involve putting in place the required infrastructure to produce and commercialize the oil and gas resources discovered in the country. These projects are technically mature. The infrastructure and the investments required for their development have been agreed upon, and the necessary processes to ensure that the environmental and social coexistence frameworks are being put in place. The key outstanding elements relate to the commercial frameworks. We recently signed the host government agreement between the oil companies and the government of Uganda for the East African crude oil pipeline project after a long period of negotiations. I thereafter led a team to Tanzania and held discussions with our counterparts where we agreed to fast-track all pending agreements. This closes out a number of outstanding commercial frameworks for the project. This includes the agreements related to our Uganda National Oil Company taking on its role as government's commercial representative in each of the projects. We know that the oil pipeline will start in Buseruka sub-county in Hoima district and run for 1,445 kilometers to the Tanzanian port of Thakkar. And when completed, it will be the world's longest heated pipeline, oil pipeline. We have also granted the Albertine Grabin Refinery Consortium an additional 17 months to complete the environmental and social impact assessment, SEA, studies and the front-end engineering design of the project. Since we discovered oil in Uganda, there has been a lot of debate and negotiations on terms to be applied, amount of tax and other expenses, which has delayed the commencement of the project. It is good that these are reaching a close and we are ready for the project to commence the construction phase. I'm not worried about the delay. We discovered this oil in 2005. This is now 15 years. I know there are some countries in Africa which discovered the oil later than us, but quickly went into production. But for us, we preferred to go slow and understand the industry. And now we understand it. We understand it, and we have big capacity. This particular project is set to exploit the 6.5 billion barrels of oil, of which 1.4 billion barrels will be pumped out, what they call in the mysterious language of oil, they call recoverable. But for me, I want to simplify for the Ugandans to say that this means the oil that will be pumped out. The total of oil down there is 6.5 billion, in 40% of the area, not the whole area, is 6.5 billion barrels. However, only 1.4 billion will be pumped out. This is over an area covering 40% of the total area that has been discovered to have this natural resource. So the 6.5 billion barrels is in 40% of the area which has oil. This is in the Lake Albert, Lake Edward areas. Mwitanzije in our language, and Ruchuru Butumbi in our language. This is expected to bring into the country investments of between 15 billion US dollars to 20 billion US dollars in the next 3 to 5 years before commencement of oil production. This kind of investment is in excess of 60% This kind of investment is quite big for our economy. We have made tremendous progress in ensuring skills, enterprises, and human resource development, putting in place an enabling legal framework, building institutional capacity, and local content, among so many other efforts. We now have laws in place to govern the upstream, midstream, and downstream. All our government institutions are operationalized with a team of very patriotic negotiators. To facilitate the completion of all negotiations, His Excellency Dr. John Magufuli, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, and I agreed to commence negotiations of all pending project agreements with immediate effect and to expedite the implementation of the East African crude oil pipeline project. We can confidently say that we are ready for the commercialization of Uganda's oil. This has oftentimes been seen as delaying, but in actual sense, it has been a continuous preparation process. There is no shortcut for a country whose agenda is sustainable exploitation of natural resources in order to create lasting value for society. The conference theme, Future Outlook, Regional Readiness for Oil and Gas Development, is timely for both the public and the private sector players to get ready to utilize the opportunities that will accrue from the exploitation of the petroleum resources. We will ensure that this growth and development transform the livelihood of our people by investing in other productive sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism, in order to cause a multiplier effect across the country and the region. I need to inform the conference that what this liter oil, this 6.5 billion, as I said, is in 40% of the Mwitanzige, Butumbi portion of the Rift Valley. Mwitanzige is what the Europeans called the Karbat. Butumbi Ruchuru is what they called Edward George. George is Rueru or Masioro. This is the petroleum zone on that side of the country. And as I said, the 6.5 billion is only 40%, is in only 40% of that zone. However, there is another zone of Uganda which has got petroleum. This is the Kadam Basin in the northeast, in Karamoja. So that one is also there, and we shall develop it. So finally, I want to assure you all that the government of Uganda is not only committed to delivering fast oil, but more importantly, to ensuring that the country benefits from the efficient management of that resource. With these few words, it is now my pleasure to declare this conference open. I thank you.
Welcome back. We thank His Excellency for that comprehensive update on what is happening in the sector. His Excellency has supported the Chamber of Mines for the last 6 years from the beginning when we had our first oil and gas convention, and he continues to assure us of his support, and we thank him very much for that. The theme for this conference, as you have heard, is regional preparedness for the oil and gas development. So we're going to have a number of speakers that are going to expound on that theme. The next speaker that we are going to have this morning is the Senior Vice President for Total in Africa, and his speech is going to be delivered by one of his own. We've got in the house here, Mr. Pierre Jessua. Mr. Pierre Jessua is the General Manager for Total E&P in Uganda, and he is also the Group Chair for the Total Group in Uganda. Mr. Pierre Jessua is a seasoned executive in the oil and gas sector. He has experience with Total of over 20 years, and he's worked in a number of countries before he came to Uganda. He's been a leader in the practice in Nigeria, in Argentina, in Congo, in Indonesia, and also at their headquarters in Paris. Dear viewers, let's welcome together Mr. Pierre Jessua to give his speech.
His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Jules Armand Anyambosu, Ambassador of France to Uganda, Honorable Mary Goretti Kitutu, Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Honorable Ministers present, Honorable Members of Parliament present, Mr. Robert Kasande, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, Honorable Dr. Elly Karuhanga, Chairman, Uganda Chambers of Mines and Petroleum, the Chairperson, Petroleum Authorities of Uganda, the Chairman, Uganda National Oil Company, colleagues from Sinuk, Tulo, and UNOC, all invited guests in your various capacities. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to the Ugandan Chamber of Mines and Petroleum for organizing and inviting me to speak at the 6th International Oil and Gas Convention themed Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for Oil and Gas Development. I would like to convey Nicolas Terras, our Senior Vice President, E&P Africa, most sincere apologies for not being able to come to deliver the speech, and he asked me to do it for him. Total E&P Uganda is privileged to be a platinum member of the Ugandan Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. We wish to commend the Chamber for its continued support towards the development of the oil and gas sector and the overall economic development of Uganda. The Lake Albert project is of strategic importance for Total Group, and as such, we are fully committed to its progress, as evidenced by the purchase of the additional interest in the project from Tulo, the very recent conclusion of the negotiations on the host government agreement between Uganda and ECOP, as well as the agreement on the conditions of entry for the Uganda National Oil Company into the licenses. Following the achievement of these significant milestones, the government has continued to demonstrate their commitment to fast-track the necessary agreements, shareholder agreement and tariff and transportation agreement, to facilitate the project. The President of Uganda and the President of Tanzania have aligned on pending matters related to the ECOP pipeline, which paved the way of a swift finalization of the host agreement in Tanzania. We expect to conclude these crucial agreements within the coming weeks. In parallel, we have significantly increased the level of project activity. The company has relaunched the major call for tender processes related to the engineering, procurement, supply and construction, drilling and wells, and enabling infrastructures for the Tilenga project. Bids for some elements of this project have already been received and are under evaluation. We have done the same on the ECOP side. Within the constraints of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are working with the Ministry of Health and other government agencies to undertake land acquisition activities for both Tilenga and ECOP projects. These activities are being undertaken while respecting the highest human rights standards. The completion of the remaining project critical agreements and activities will enable us to target FID by the end of the year. In the design of this project, Total has fully considered the sensitivity of the operating environment, in particular, the proximity of wetlands, Murchison Falls National Park, and Lake Albert. Total E&P Uganda not only endeavors to minimize the project footprint in this key sensitive area, but has also implemented robust mitigations measures approved in the environmental and social impact assessment process. We have also made a public commitment to achieve a biodiversity net gain, or in other words, an overall improvement in biodiversity in the Murchison Falls Conservation Area during the life of the project. Concrete actions have put in place to achieve this objective. We continue to reiterate our willingness to pursue constructive dialogue with the host communities and NGOs regarding all our activities. In line with this, we are working with various stakeholders in order to finalize the environmental and social management plans, we call it ESMPs, for the Tilenga project ahead of the submission to the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA. We are engaging government, national and local authorities, NGOs and CSOs to ensure that comprehensive feedback is captured and incorporated in these plans. The ESMP have been specifically developed to operationalize the enhancement and mitigation measures that have been identified in the Tilenga Project Environmental Social Impact Assessment Report. Given the human and environmental sensitivity of the locations of the project, Total is committed to engaging in continuous dialogue with all stakeholders, and in particular, the local communities and the project-affected person to ensure that all our operations are conducted to meet international best practice, IFC's performance standards, and also comply with the most stringent COVID-19 prevention measures. In all its operation, Total considers national content as a key factor in the success of its activities, and Total E&P Uganda is no exception. Our approach to national content is cognizant of the Ugandan context, given that ONGs is a developing sector in Uganda. Therefore, in Uganda, we developed a national content strategy aimed at maximizing the use of local manpower, local goods and services providers. This strategy was developed in line with the National Content Regulation of Uganda, aimed at developing the competencies of local suppliers to support economic growth within and outside the oil and gas sector in Uganda. Safety, respect for human rights, corporate social responsibility, and environmental protections are all embedded in our DNA. And we expect our suppliers to adhere to these principles and values and to commit to them alongside us. Already, several of our suppliers in Uganda are and continue to be Ugandan companies offering a wide range of services, including camp management, lifting services, waste management, civil works, logistics, etc. As the project advances, there will be various opportunities for Ugandan companies to participate, such as civil works, waste management, logistics, clearing and forwarding and supply of locally available drilling and production material, among others. We are also implementing capacity building programs to enhance the participation of Ugandans in the sector through several programs to include welder trainings, with international certification, heavy good vehicle driver training, scaffolder training, as well as engaging with local suppliers through supplier development workshop, now held virtually due to the current context, to better equip them with information that is crucial in the award of contracts by the company. We are planning to resumption of our capacity building programs while implementing the appropriate COVID standards operating procedures to enable us to continue with the planned work program on initiatives such as welders and heavy goods drivers training initiatives. In conclusion, Total is committed to the development of the Lake Albert project and the achievement of FIDs as soon as possible, We remain committed to the African continent, which is our DNA, and continue to look out for new areas of collaboration and investment in the continent. I thank you for the opportunity to speak at this prestigious event, and I look forward to our continued collaboration on the realization of the Ugandan project. Thank you.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, now I can safely say that you have heard it on live TV from not only governments, but also the partners to government, the joint venture partners to government, that oil is happening, we are ready, they are ready, they have just told you what's going to come, they have focused on national content, they have focused on the aspects of FID, which we have heard will be, they're aiming for confirmation and agreement towards the end of the year. So we have got a lot of things. You have heard about standards, you've heard about how you can participate. Before we go into the next very exciting panel, where we will obviously invite again Monsieur Jessua to participate, we want to take a small break so that you have time to take in and understand what you have heard from our chairman at the chamber, what you have heard from His Excellency the President about government and how they have managed to work with Tanzania and get the agreement signed, and with the JV partners. You have now also heard directly a message from the Vice President of Total about their intention of how they're going to participate with us in making sure Uganda has a best start as an oil nation. Let's take a short break now, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back, where I will introduce you to the next panel and the moderator for the panel, and then we are going to head straight into our sessions so that you will get more information. Thank you.
NBS happening now. The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum is a not-for-profit member-based organization that was founded in March 2010. The Chamber's purpose is to be the coordinating and facilitating center for information and administrative support to prospective and current investors in the mining and petroleum sectors in Uganda. It represents companies with active interest in the mining and petroleum sectors while promoting, encouraging, protecting, and fostering responsible exploration in these sectors. Its primary goal is to create value for all stakeholders. The Chamber advocates for a beneficial business environment, creation of synergies and partnerships, information dissemination, and capacity enhancement for effective national content promotion. Membership in the Chamber is open to all players across the entire value chains of mining and petroleum. National content is our flagship, and at UCMP, we believe that together we can achieve more. To register, info@ucmp.ug or call +256 393 516 695. The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, have organized the 6th Oil and Gas Convention under the theme Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for the Oil and Gas Development. Pamela Natamba. Pamela is a tax partner at PwC with over 15 years experience in tax consulting and advisory services both in Uganda and in the UK. She has provided advisory service to a number of multinational clients in a broad range of industries including oil and gas, banking, insurance, telecommunications, manufacturing, energy and utilities. She also provides support to the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum as an advisor to the Council and local content matters. Happening on the 29th and 30th of September from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. live on NBS and on all social media platforms. With every second of every minute, every hour of every day, something is making the news around the globe. Unlike the old days, you don't have to wait anymore. Now, with NowPost, you get every story as it happens. Just log on to nowpost.co.ug or simply download our mobile app and catch all the breaking news in real time from anywhere. It's quick and easy to use. The NowPost, your accurate news fast. The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, have organized the 6th Oil and Gas Convention under the theme Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for the Oil and Gas Development. Proscovia Nabbanja. Proscovia has 19 years of experience in oil and gas industry. Formerly served as the principal geologist in Petroleum Exploration and Production Department under the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. She headed the technical division and was at the forefront of reviews of technical proposals, especially field development plans and petroleum reserve reports. She headed the estimation and reporting of the oil resources and reserves in the country, field operation monitoring and management of petroleum data. She has sat on a number of inter-ministerial committees and also worked on a number of donor-funded programs such as Oil for Development and USAID. Happening on the 29th and 30th of September from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. live on NBS and on all social media platforms. It's the biggest hit station.
Oh, yes.
You never miss a thing.
You gotta be kidding me, right?
Get it on your phone by simply downloading the Next Radio app from Google Play or Apple Store. Find it on the web
on www.nextradio.co.ug
and even on TV, Star Times Channel 243. And if you like it the old school way, we got you too. It's big hits all day, every day, only on
106.1 Next Radio.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram
At Next Radio UG.
The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, have organized the 6th Oil and Gas Convention under the theme Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for the Oil and Gas Development. Ms. Peninah Aheebwa, Director for Technical Support Services. Ms. Aheebwa holds a Master of Science degree in Energy Studies, specialized in oil and gas economics from the University of Dundee, UK, a Master of Arts in Economic Policy and Planning from Makerere University. She has worked with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development since 2002, where she rose through the ranks to the position of Principal Petroleum Officer in 2015. She has a vast experience in the areas of economics, commercial aspects, policy and planning for the oil and gas sector. Happening on the 29th and 30th of September from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. live on NBS and on all social media platforms. NBS happening now.
Right. Welcome back, everyone, to our viewers and everyone else. Now you can see next to me that the chairs are now filled. So we are starting our first session this morning, which is going to be headed up and moderated by none other than Mr. Jimmy Mugerwa. Mr. Mugerwa, and as I'm unfortunately used to calling him as Jimmy, but I will refer to him as Mr. Mugerwa for Live TV, is an exceptional individual with a vast amount of knowledge in this sector. He has been involved with Tullow from pretty much not only the Ugandan perspective, but an international perspective. He heads up Zoramu right now as a founder and managing partner. He has got nearly 30 years of experience in oil and gas. So this is even before we had any inkling of an idea that we are going to start becoming and working towards an oil and gas nation. I want to hand it over to Mr. Mugerwa. He will introduce the panelists, and this is going to be a very exciting debate that's going to happen now. Please stay in tune.
Thank you, Sam. Your Excellency, the President, all protocols observed, our viewers, welcome to this Oil and Gas Convention. We are fortunate to have a panel of very experienced people. Many of them, we have been on the same table, either across or on the same side, negotiating the agreements and the various discussions taking place in oil and gas. Let me take this opportunity to start with introducing Pierre Jessua. Pierre Jessua is the General Manager and Country Chairman for Total Group. Pierre has 34 years of experience in oil and gas and has been at the forefront in all the negotiations as far as the oil and gas project in Uganda is concerned. Very much welcome, Pierre. Next is Madame Proscovia Nabbanja, who is the CEO for the Uganda National Oil Company. Proscovia has over 20 years of experience in oil and gas, originally a geologist in the ministry, and went on to become the Chief Operating Officer for the National Oil until recently when she was promoted to become the CEO for UNOC. And as I said, Proscovia has been involved in the finding, the agreements, the negotiations of oil and gas. Welcome, Proscovia. And then the next person I have is Peninah Aheebwa. Peninah is the Director of Technical Support Services in the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, the regulator. And Peninah has also been in the negotiations as a person responsible for the commercial side of the business in the regulator's office. And she's with us here to share with us some of that knowledge. So on the panel, you've got probably about 80 years of experience willing to discuss how we take this project forward. But you also have a regulator, you've got a joint venture partner, and you've got an operator. So let me take the opportunity to start with you, Pierre. First of all, congratulations, Pierre, at signing the host government agreement, the speech we had from His Excellency the President and the Total Senior Vice President and yourself. It is incredible that in this period of the pandemic, we were struggling to try and sign the HGA for so long. And then in the pandemic, we're able to sign that HGA. So well done to that, and congratulations. And now that the HGA, the host government agreement, has been signed, there's a lot of excitement all over again, and that the project is back on track. However, in reality, and a lot of people thought when the HGA was signed, that was project sanction. And yet, there is still project sanction, or what most people call FID, or the final investment decision. So in reality, there are still some agreements that need to still be finalized. Agreements, licenses, processes. And so my question to you, Pierre, if you could just share with the viewers, what are some of those outstanding items between the host government agreement we've signed with Uganda and the final investment decision, which the President has spoken about? And can you also give an indication on timelines?
Thank you, Jimmy. Welcome, everybody. I'm very happy to be with all of you, and I'm very glad to participate to this panel. True to say that it's a bit of a paradox that things have been moving so fast in such a difficult period. But I think that was thanks to the momentum which has been given by His Excellency and my CEO as early as end of November 2019, and where we could really restart very fruitful discussions, very focused discussion. And again, despite the difficult context and the difficult situation. Yes, so on the 11th of September, His Excellency and our CEO could discuss and actually resolved two key, I would say, issues and documents, which were namely the UNOC back-in, which is basically the entrance of UNOC within the license upstream, and the HGA, the host government agreement between Uganda and ECOP. So subsequently, those documents have been initialed, and I would say, technically speaking, they will be signed once we will have the due process done through the Attorney General Cabinet and the Cabinet approval. But definitely, those two documents are agreed, the content is agreed, and we can go forward to the next steps. What are the other issues to be done? True to say that there are still some work to be done in the midstream, what we call the midstream, the ECOP. We have the similar document to be agreed on in Tanzania, the HGA in Tanzania. And thanks again to the momentum given by His Excellency and the meeting which took place immediately after the meeting on the 11th of September, the two presidents met and could iron down the key elements, offering, I would say, a good restart of discussions on the HGA in Tanzania. What else? There are some elements to be put, I would say, in harmonization, which are the rules and the law respective in Uganda and in Tanzania, that what we call the enabling legislations to ensure that the HGAs in each country can be fully, I would say, enforced. And we have the shareholders agreement, the SHA, and the tariff and transportation agreement, the TTA, which are actually already under discussions with all the stakeholders. So it's a kind of, yes, lot of work, but again, I don't see any showstoppers to make this happen. It's hard work to be done. What needs to be done again on the technical side? There will be the ESIA for ECOP in the Uganda, which has to be agreed by the authorities, by NEMA. It's well advanced. The documents have been submitted for some time, and we are hopefully, I would say, hoping to receive the agreement by year end. And we have relaunched call for tenders on all the range of, I would say, contracts in both Tilenga and ECOP. Some of the offers have been already received, technical offers. Others had to come between end of September and October. And this will allow us to make recommendation to award and then to complete, I would say, the set of agreements and prerequisite to FID. So to say the overall panorama is, yes, we have some hard work to be done, but we proved in the recent months that we've been extremely efficient, thanks to the government, thanks to PAU, our regulator, who has been, I would say, key on those issues, thanks to the Minister of Energy. So we've been, I would say, very, very efficient to move the things forward. And I'm pretty confident that thanks to those commitments, we are going to be able to be in position to take the FID by the end of this year.
Wow, that's great news. So the RTAs ready to award should be issued around the end of November, somewhere there.
Yes, between November and December, depending on the type of, I would say, contracts we are talking about.
That's good. So one of the questions many of our local businessmen and people who want to participate in the oil and gas have been asking is, and they've been commenting, that they do not have a clear timeline or a line of sight of when things will happen and what they should be doing today to get ready. So you've explained that you still have to finalize the shareholders agreement, the TTAs, the tariff and transport agreements, then we get to FID. But for the local guys who are seated there, this month we've seen one of the bidders, Petrofac, who's done a presentation about inviting the local people to potential suppliers to participate. Could you shed some more light on how soon the operators, yourselves, and the stroke EPC contractors will be able to share detailed schedules and volumes, quantities, the required support and goods and services, especially in terms of the FID announcement that will come? Because people have got to get ready, and they won't get ready when FID has been announced. By that time, it will be late. It's almost like participating in a race. You do not start training when the whistle has blown. You should be ready so that you're on the line on the day.
Sure.
But how would you advise the local businesses?
Yeah, and I'm sure that we can come back on this issue of the timeline, because it's been very difficult for all the I would say the stakeholders and all the company to wait and to get ready and to stop, etc. I'm sure that we're going to come back on this. But definitely, I think things are already happening. As you were mentioning, some bidders are already disclosing what they are asking for in terms of volumes, in terms of quantities, as I was mentioning. The relaunch of the call for tender, for instance, for the EPSCC, has made our already bidders and new bidders to come into the discussions, to interact with the local market. Of course, it's been a bit more difficult due to the current situation and I would say the obstacles in terms of transportation, but likely, I mean, we are hoping to have the airport soon reopen, and I'm sure that it will offer some opportunities for the what we call the first line contractors to come and visit the country and discuss with the local bidders. So yes, things are happening already. I think we have shared some information already during this 90 days campaign organized by the UCMP. We have shared a lot of information during our national content webinars. Again, as I was mentioning, the bidders themselves are building up their plan. We have already shared some national content plan and programs with the regulator, and the bidders are active into setting up their requirements in countries. So I think the things are coming along, and definitely from July of 2020 until the end of this year, things will be building up. To understand what will be needed on site, that will be really depending on the kind of activities. For instance, if you think about the first step is what we call the enabling infrastructures, which is the surface preparation. This activity should start before year end, and in that case, we will need some work to be done, some volumes to be displaced as early as November of this year. If we are looking at, for instance, the EPC contract, there will be, of course, a slow ramp-up of activities in 2021, but I would say that by starting mid-2021, the EPC contractor will need some activities at site. And if we think about the drilling activities is really going to happen more like kind of 18 months after FID. But to make it happen, they need to build a warehouse, they need to build bases for their activities. So I'm sure that they will need some activities around as early as mid-2021 until 22 and 23. So basically what's happening is that there are dialogues, there are discussions, there are information which are either already shared or will be shared soon in the coming months. But you're right to say that in those kind of situations, we don't want to be too early, and that might have happened in the past, but cannot be too late as well. So yes, it's a dialogue. It's something that we need to ensure that most of the people are aware of what's going on, and that's through the forums that we are organizing all together to share those information with the local contractors.
Thanks, Pierre. So my question to these guys is that we need to continue attending these functions so that you are aware of what is coming. Proscovia, congratulations about the backing of UNOC into the JVP. We've always been asking for that, and as the national oil company, you play a key role. So as a non-operator now officially in the JVP, how are you going to play the role between now and FID, and especially with ensuring that there is a local participation in the EPC contracting process, EPC, the engineering, procurement, and contracting process?
Thanks a lot, Jimmy. And indeed, when government issued the production licenses, the state declared 15% participation in each of the licenses, and UNOC was nominated as the agency to manage the commercial aspects for the state. Now, what this means is you have to enter into a joint operating agreement which governs the way the operations are done for those upstream projects. Now, recently, of course, we initiated the deeds, which means that now we can sit with Pierre and the joint venture partners to discuss the work programs and budgets for the different activities pertaining to the upstream developments. Now, this means that gets a seat on the table, of course, representing the state, and ensuring that you're discussing with the joint venture partners on the different programs. How are they going to impact the state? Are they returning value to the state? Are we embedding national content aspects in there? And you have those rights and obligations and the government side that you're bringing to the table, which is very important. And across the globe, most of the national oil companies have participated in a similar manner. So it's not only unique to Uganda. Now, when it comes to contracting process, Pierre has touched on some of the aspects of what you do during the EPC contracting and the front-end engineering and design. And as a national oil company, you want to be interested in the way the procurement is being done and how those contracts are being debundled in such a way that they embed national content. And that's very important to us because at the end of the day, you want to see Ugandans participate in the sector, but at the same time, you don't want to debundle contracts so much in a way that they cause operational inefficiencies. So we bring that sort of level discussion on the table. Between now and FID, again, it's going to be similar things that Pierre has talked about, discussing the work programs, how do we ramp up personnel, because UNOC also has to place staff on the different projects. How do we bring the nationals? How do we prepare them for the different contracts? So it's really going to be more of the state now looking at itself as an investor with the joint venture partners.
Thanks, Proscovia. You raise an interesting thing of unbundling contracts. So, Peninah, as the regulator, you've highlighted the need of Ugandans participating through local content to realize the benefits for this project. But the reality is, as Pierre and Proscovia have picked up, is that the EPC is a big contract, both financially and technically. I mean, you're talking of $15 billion. You're talking of a project that has never been done in this country. So to increase local content value level for Ugandan participation, PAU has many times spoken about unbundling the EPC contract. So for the benefit of our viewers is that the EPC is a big contract. I think the enabling structure will probably be in the range of $4 to $5 million. So you look at that and you say how and what are you going to do as a regulator to ensure that, as Proscovia has mentioned, that you're able to unbundle so that Ugandans are able to touch some of those projects.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jimmy, and the organizers of this event. We are glad to participate as the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, the regulator. Thank you for that question. And indeed, if you have heard us in our different conferences as the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, we have tried to disseminate information on the importance of Ugandans participating in the oil and gas sector, because we have observed countries like Malaysia and Norway, which have benefited richly from their resources. That was the way their citizens participated optimally in the sector. And like you have said, Jimmy, the contracts are huge, and indeed they can be a deterrent to Ugandans to participate in terms of technical complexity and financially to contribute to raising financing for those projects can be a hurdle to Ugandans, because we are just building capacity as Ugandan enterprises. So one of the solutions, and I would say unbundling is just one of the solutions, and it is actually embedded within the regulatory framework. the regulatory framework requires that the licensees, contractors and subcontractors will unbundle or break down the contracts into work packages that are manageable to the extent possible, of course. And so we have tried to negotiate and to work with the IOCs to make sure that these EPCs are broken down to the extent possible. And I'll just highlight the Kingfisher Development Project. It is unbundled, I think, into 6 packages. And I will just highlight 2 of them, of the 6. We believe these 2 will be done by Ugandans, maybe exclusively. One of them is the well pad site preparation and civil works for well pads. The other one I can cite is the permanent camp, supply base, and safety stroke security check station. The construction of those, we believe, will be done by Ugandans. So they have tried to unbundle to the extent possible in line with our advice. Equally, the Tilenga project, which is operated by Total, is in around 5 packages. And the ECOP is around 3 lots, or I would say 3 packages. But even in those packages, we have ring-fenced around 16 categories of goods and services that are exclusive for Ugandans. So even in those packages, the scopes that have to do with the 16 categories of goods and services, they have got to be done by Ugandans. And the way to do it will be subcontracting, doing joint ventures, and so on. So we have negotiated, we have unbundled, but even then in the bundles we have achieved, there's going to be subcontracting, and there's going to be a need for joint venturing and so on. So that is just one way of ensuring Ugandans participate. The other way that we are trying to make sure Ugandans participate is creating visibility. Like you have said, some of the bidders are already looking out for Ugandans. They have done some workshops like Petrofac. We created the National Supplier Database as a platform where the capacity in the country can be visible to everyone. So if you're not on the NSD, it might be hard for you to be seen or to be known. So that is one way of ensuring that Ugandans are known, are seen, and their capacity is displayed. The other way, we appreciate that these projects are capital intensive. You need a lot of money. And so we are working with the ministry and the relevant agencies to put in place the National Content Fund. This is enshrined in the National Content Policy that was approved by Cabinet last year. We believe through this fund, Ugandan enterprises will be able to get some relatively cheaper money to be able to participate in the contracts that are going to be issued before the end of this year. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's pretty comprehensive. Proscovia, just coming back to you. So you said earlier on that UNOC is playing a key role in advancing supply readiness for the project. And just to talk about UNOC, we're speaking about the operators and the EPC contractors having linkages and partnership. How is UNOC ensuring that they also are creating linkages with the Ugandan players?
That's a very good question, Jimmy. First of all, Uganda National Oil Company by in itself existing, in the industry is national content. But the approach we've used is to develop a national content strategy and plan as UNOC in order to bring the aspects of national content to the table. We have 6 pillars within our national content strategy and plan. Number 1, which is really attracting and recruiting Ugandan talent, because it's a high-tech industry, but we believe there are some Ugandans who can ably take up those jobs. And today we are 118 headcount, purely Ugandans, and that's some level of national content. The other way, or the second pillar, is supplier selection, and to your point, for every contract we get into, we try to make sure that Ugandans are actually participating in those contracts. But that being said, it's not enough to give those opportunities. You need to develop them to ably participate. So the third pillar that we have is supplier development. And we work with the likes of the Stanbic Incubator Program to structure trainings that allow the local companies to prepare themselves to win bids, to prepare their documents, to qualify for health and safety standards, and all those aspects that the joint venture partners and even the contractors would be looking at if they're going to pick on a Ugandan company, and that's very important. Then the other avenue that we have is how do we prepare ourselves as a national oil company to get into services. And we are looking out, of course, for joint ventures for service delivery in a way that we want to tap into the value of operation and maintenance, service, operations for the industry, because that's another area that we want to tap into. But in the long term, as a national oil company, you also want to become an operator in your own entity or in your own right. Pierre here would say that, of course, he's here to stay for a long time. And as a national oil company, we are also here to stay for a long time, because at the end of the day, a national oil company drives the energy sustainability agenda for any country. So we are also keen on that. And lastly is our ability to create those linkages with vocational training institutions and tertiary institutions to prepare that workforce for the future. And we are very keen on this in a way that the way we are training people today, fine, you're training them for the oil and gas industry, but His Excellency always talks about those trickle-down effects to the other sectors of the economy. And our approach has always been, you train for today, but build for tomorrow. Because oil and gas is a finite resource, but the capabilities you're putting in place today can actually be used for other transformational sectors of the economy. So by and large, that's the way we are framing the conversation of national content within UNOC, and we believe it's a sustainable approach to national content.
Thanks, Proscovia. Indeed, you're right. We kind of need to plan for a lot of these things. Pierre, you probably had the discussion both from Peninah and Proscovia. And as a person who has been in this sector for a long time, the many previous FID cancellations and postponements have led some of our potential participant suppliers to either lose hope or get disappointed, and some of them have stories after having come out of the E&A of the exploration phase. So the question to you is, what are you doing as the operators to ensure that you rebuild that confidence, but also maybe take the opportunity to assure people that you're not just going to do super bundles, you will be able to bring in packages which are reachable by Ugandans?
Yes, we had all suffered from those terrible time of hope and then disillusion. And personally, I'm a quite impatient guy. So I can tell you that I personally suffered. I came in this country in 2018 to develop the project, and I realized that there were some hurdles. Either because and actually really I share this frustration, and I really think of all the people, especially the local company who had invested, who had hoped, and then had to wait, losing money, losing revenue, having their loans to be reimbursed. So I really understand how difficult it's been, and there was no malice, there was no kind of things to try to deceive the people. That was just up and goes and stop and down, and that's all those type of things we need to be very careful about. So today the situation is different from before for various reasons, and again we have a paradox, is that the external world is really uncertain, maybe more uncertain than some of the period that we have experienced where we were not able to get this project out. We had this fall of the oil price in the late 2014, which really obliged us to rethink our development. Then we restarted in 2016. Then we had other issues, more disalignment between us or with the government, with some of the key elements like the Tullow disinvestment
or the ECOP, I would say, business model. Fortunately, we overcome those issues, but I can imagine how the people feel in terms of what's the credibility of this project. And that was really the question we were having, because, for instance, for the international market, we were actually extending the validity of the offers for a couple of years, and the market was saying, are you serious with this project? We had to basically suspend all this for a year to wait for much, I would say, robust grounds to restart. So where do we stand today? From my perspective, again, from what we have in hands, it's totally different compared to what we were in the past, because we don't have any more showstoppers. I'm insisting on this word because that was the reality a couple of years ago when you see the difficulties that we were facing on key elements which were preventing us to take the FID. And today those things are behind us. Again, I list down a certain number of things which can create some question marks on our readiness, but it's work. Yeah. It's hard work, it's work, but it's not, issues where we have a gap between ourselves. That's, business as usual, things that has to be agreed on. But fortunately, we have, I would say, behind us the key issues which are resolved. So we need to explain where we are. We've been very prudent in the FID dates. I was from giving quarters or even dates at a certain moment, and now I've been much more prudent, not because I don't trust, but I don't want to give a date and then we are late, etc. We are in a dynamic of taking the FID this year. We are in a dynamic to do it before the year end. There was a huge commitment from our CEO. There's an alignment between all stakeholders to do so. What we need to do with all our, I would say, environment is to ensure that it's progressing correctly on the contractors and the bidders sides. We need, as we were mentioning before, to continue to give the right information that people are ready. I was mentioning something is that we are going to receive offers. And definitely we need to have very competitive offers. I cannot escape from this, because we cannot believe that we are going to do this project at any cost. We are in a new situation. We are expecting that we have a market which is favorable because there's not that much project coming out from the ground. And that's the reason why we have relaunched some of the call for tenders, because we believe that there is an opportunity for Uganda, for IOCs to take the best of this market. So we are expecting very competitive, I would say, offers from our bidders. For the unbundling, I think it's been well described by Peninah. There are several ways to do it. On Tilenga's side, people are all a bit focusing their attention to the EPC contract, which has a sense to make it in a one block because of efficiency, because of the schedule, because of I would say controlling the cost. But we have not only a single contract in Tilenga. We have, as I was mentioning, the enabling infrastructures themselves in several lots, and that's really reachable for local contractors. When we are looking at the drilling, we are not having a single contract. We have something like 10 contracts. Some may be regrouped. That was some intermediate bundles. But there are definitely contracts which are focusing on the local contractors, the waste management, as mentioned, all the security, the camp, etc., will have to be managed by local contractors, and it's according to the law. We have ring fence contracts, and if it's not, I would say, directly contracted by Total or by CNOOC, it will be subcontracted. We are, of course, promoting the JV partnership between international companies which have some experience and the local contractors. So we are totally willing to promote the various ways of offering opportunities. And as mentioned, it's from contract directly awarded to local contractors to subcontracts and JV partnerships. So that's all the issues that we continue to communicate with the bidders. That's where we are today.
Thank you. I think the takeaway on that is, one, we need to manage expectations of our suppliers so that we don't get into the same situation. But the other one is, which I'm happy to hear, is that as an operator, you are willing to look at the bundles and which you spoke about. And Peninah, when you hear about that, the other theme that comes through is that oil and gas is finite, so we will need to ensure that some industries are domiciled in Uganda, that we do not continue importing flanges and bulbs and nuts and which we can manufacture here. What is the regulator going to do to support the Ugandan companies to support, first of all, the international companies and the local suppliers to ensure that some of these services are domiciliated? And what are some of those services which you envisage?
Thank you so much once again. That's a very, very important subject. Domiciliation vis-a-vis indigenization. Some people are for indigenization. But we have seen a lot of experience around the world, and the notable one is really Nigeria in terms of domiciling some of the services, the very specialized and technical services. I'll just highlight a few. Out of, I think, regulation and monitoring, Nigeria has been able to domicile a very good number of services within their territory. Just an example, one of the biggest facilities, offshore facilities, the one they call the Gina FPSO, was assembled in Nigeria, I think for the very first time. They have a number of fabrication yards specifically for the oil and gas sector. All was out of efforts to domicile the specialized and technical services within the country. We are following in those steps. And the first step we did as Uganda is to make sure the 16 categories are domiciled here. That is the starting point. I understand that is a very small scope and we cannot settle for that. So we are looking at other things, and we are negotiating with the oil companies to make sure each one of them, out of each of these projects, we have a legacy project that remains in the country at the end of the day. And this is going to be through, they're putting up, like he said, a national content plan for the next 5 years. And even as they go through this contracting period, this contracting stage, one of the things we are looking out for is to make sure the bidders that are coming here have proposals to domicile some of the services they're going to require and the goods. Some of the things we are looking out for, as an example, are setting up facilities for pipe coating, fabrication yards, and currently we are packaging a study to look at the fabrication capacity within the country to build on that. But it is something we are seeing as a potential legacy project for the country to have a number of fabrication yards. And actually within our regulatory framework, it is a requirement that to the extent possible, we will do the fabrication in the country, the fabrication that is required. Other things that we are looking at are assembling some of the systems within the country that are going to be required. Like you have said, some valves, testing and repair of those valves. Some small equipment can actually be manufactured here. So we are in negotiations with them to make sure these things are incorporated in their national content plan for the 5 years, and even in the contracting strategy that they are implementing right now, they are actually implemented. One of the other ways is to encourage, which we are doing, what I talked about, joint venturing and partnerships. As you partner with these people that are offering those services, in essence, with a few years to come, they will be offered by locals in Uganda. Again, we are also looking at, we have a number of authorized agents and resellers in the country. We are thinking that these should be utilized if we are not able to fully domicile some of the services. So the agents we have in the country and resellers of some of the things that are going to be used should be able to be utilized. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. That's nice that the regulator has a list of services which could be domiciled. I think the key thing in local content is not just about the number of people who are participating, but also the value that of the project that is being left in country. And if you think about the value, you've got 15 billion, and maybe let me just throw a question and anybody can take it, is if you think that we've got so much, we have about a project of $15 billion, how much do we anticipate in terms of value that will stay here? And I can give an example of Nigeria. I think in 2018, when they did some work, the value was around 10%, but they had a target to get to 70%. Do we have such targets, whether in UNOC or in the operator or the regulator? I mean, anybody can take that.
Well, perhaps I can take it up. We have a number of targets, both for human resource, and some of those are actually enshrined within the regulatory framework. For contracting, in the past, out of the exploration period, we have been able to achieve around 28%. Out of the 3.4 billion that has been spent in exploration by the IOCs, we think we retained 28%. For this development phase, we are working towards retaining 40% out of the estimated investment.
So 40% of the 50 billion?
Yes.
That's very good.
And there's so many strategies. If we had time, I would take you through. So we think with the many strategies that we have put in place, we'll be able to achieve that 40% out of the development phase.
Okay, that's good. From a UNOC perspective, how much of the value will you keep to leave for Ugandans on the table?
I think from a UNOC perspective, of course, we don't want to step away from what the regulator is saying. For sure, for any country, you want to retain as much value as possible. And of course, for us as UNOC, yes, we can work with the joint venture partners to make sure that, like we said before, the contracts are debundled to such an extent that you retain quite a substantial amount of value in country. But there is the other avenue we bring to the table that, and it's something that I talked about earlier, the fact that UNOC is actually in these contracts is value retention itself. If we are participating in the upstream at 15%, you compare it with another country that doesn't have a national oil company within the joint venture arrangement. That's value retention, just to support what Peninah is saying. So from that perspective of UNOC being a key player across the different projects, 15 in the upstream, 15 in the ECOP, and other projects where, the projects are not really dependent on FID, there's already that value that we are bringing to the state. And in terms of contracting, certainly we're looking at contracting more Ugandans across the different projects. Similar metrics like my colleague Peninah is saying, but at the end of the day, you really want to see yourself rise from a 10% to anywhere 40 to 50%.
Okay, that's good. So there is a clear strategy. What about from the operator's perspective?
I had in mind a percentage between 30 and 40%. So I'm not that far from the figures shared by Peninah. But I would like to make a few comments. Is that, of course, everybody is looking at what's happening at the first phase, which is the development itself, and which is a very capital intensive for sure. But there will be the next 20 years afterwards, which are all the services And that's where I think it's very interesting to invest as well, because we will need maintenance, we will need inspection, we will need repair, we will need to make modifications on the facilities. And that's really something we need all of us to work on from now on, because there are some of those activities which could be, the development activity could be the first step to step into the second phase. We need sustainability, because you have disclosed my experience. I'm a bit embarrassed because it's disclosing my age as well. But I've been in Nigeria, I've been in Indonesia, I've been in Argentina, I've been in Congo, and I think what is key is sustainability, because our industry, unfortunately, is made of cycles. And we've seen that in the recent years, when you have a steep decline of the oil price, suddenly activities is just shutting down. And I'm not talking about the climate change and the transformation. So from my perspective, the national content has to be, of course, looking at what are the services to be provided now, but what could be, I would say, useful for, I would say, the low cycles when oil is not there because of a crisis, or because there's as you were mentioning before, I mean, oil time is a finite time. And that, I think, what is beautiful is to build up the competencies of people who could then handle other activities, thanks to the experience gained in the oil industry, the quality, the safety, those kind of values that are very strong in our industry could be then promoted in other industry. So really, I think the big work that we have to do, and it's collective, is to see how we can have something sufficiently robust. The companies that will be setting down and actually building up will be able to face other activities than the oil industry. And I think this is the challenge that we are all facing.
Yeah. And I think you raised an important point, Pierre, is that when we improve the welders, the quality of welding in this country, or the scaffolding, so that we stop using cartoons, but we're using paper scaffolding, that will go across and be a benefit across the industries and across the country. And I can give you an example. When I was the MD of Tallow, we had a lot of tallow staff, because we were at a low season, who we exported outside, and they were working on the Kenyan project, they were working on the Ghanaian project, and those guys are still there. So it is true. The cycle goes through troughs and highs, and we just need to ensure that we kind of manage that curve properly. Proscovia, I have to come back to you when you spoke about 15% value. I can't help it but think about that is 15% of 15 billion. And I asked myself, of course the government of Uganda has the funds because they're the resource holders, but how are you funding that 15%, as you know?
Thanks, Jimmy, for that question. And indeed, it's a very pertinent question to us that we're having a discussion on with the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Energy. When you look at the portfolio of projects that we have, some that are dependent on FID, some that are totally down the petroleum value chain, you're talking about an investment portfolio of about $845 million US. To break that down, for the East African crude oil pipeline, which is about $3.5 billion project, we are participating at 15%, and that's translating to about $213 million US. It's project financed, I think 60-40 debt to equity, and we will need to source the $213 million US. The refinery is another project that we have. Again, projected investment capital is about $4 billion US of a project. We are participating at 40%. and that translates to about 480 million US dollars if you assume a 70-30 debt to equity ratio. So that is, the level of investment we need for the pipeline and the refinery. And then besides those projects, of course, we also have other projects in storage terminals, one that we intend to set up in Buloba, quite a strategic one, and we need 71.4 million US dollars for phase one at 51% participating interest. And then we also need to beef up our strategic reserves, and there we need also another about 18 million US dollars. So when you look at all these projects, you would argue that you're almost investing $1 billion US dollars as UNOC out of the 15 to 20 billion dollar sector. So again, the conversation is how do you finance these projects? There's been quite some intense discussions with the Ministry of Finance together with the Ministry of Energy on how to get this financing on the table. We do not need all the 845, before FID. We've structured the projects in a way that, those that are coming fast, like the East African crude oil pipeline, you try and secure the financing as quickly as possible. Of course, there's been also discussion on why you can't do a financing solution that embraces all the different projects together. Then you start drawdown depending on the project that you're dealing with. So early discussions there. And again, there are people who have approached us and said, why don't you dilute yourself? But by the fact that these are strategic projects, you do not want to dilute the participating interest of the state. And we'll still have those conversations of whether you're going to source debt, whether you're going to get, infrastructure loans of sorts. There's so many ways of doing it, but we are in discussions with Minister of Finance on how to land these. There are some that are quick wins, like the bulk trading business, and we are working with the banks to see if we can get trade financing for some of these project lines we have. But that being said, of course, when you look at the 845 million US dollars that we need as investment, our commercial team has modeled the return on investment, and for any of these projects, you have an internal rate of return that is in excess of 15%. So when you look at every dollar you invest as a national oil company and you return 10 within that 25-year term, it's very important for us to have a footprint in each of these projects. And we will find a way on how to get this financing on the table.
That's encouraging to hear, and I see your shareholder, the PS, looking at me and smiling. But just on that, I mean, just like we spoke about local participation, and of course, I should declare my conflict of interest being a chairman of a bank. Are you also going to look at the local banks? Because when you talk about $1 billion, you start to think about how are we going to mobilize so much capital?
Yeah, I think we've also approached the local banks as well, but at the end of the day, what is the cost of borrowing? What's your cost of capital? But I know there's been a conversation around local banks forming a consortium and breaking down the 845 to see where they can actually support the financing of these projects. So still early phases for sure, but we believe the conversation will land us on something realistic.
Okay, thank you very much. The other point I think we should discuss is the one of vocational skilling, because we know it is one of the key value retainer enabler. But it requires long-term planning. So it is not one of those things where you wake up in the morning and you train people very quickly and you give them a certificate in 3 months. So maybe from starting with the regulator, what concrete steps is the regulator taking to create ownership, within government to ensure that interventions from the skilling perspective are taking place? And maybe also to hear it from the operators and the national oil side.
Okay, thank you so much. Indeed, like you've said, it's a long-term thing. You cannot start today and you think you'll get results tomorrow. And as Uganda, we started some time back. We actually started by doing a skills needs analysis study to find out what kind of skills are we going to require, what kind of certifications, what kind of numbers are we looking at. After we did that, we actually put in place a workforce skills development strategy and plan. And that has been implemented, I think, since 2013. When we did the studies, we actually found out of the 160,000 people that are going to be required at the peak of the project, the construction projects, over 70% of those people are going to be people who are coming out of vocational training institutions. So we're like, okay, we had a number of vocational training institutions, but that was not good enough because these people are not the ordinary welders, the ordinary scaffolders, the ordinary pipe fitters, and so on. They need international certification. So initially, we were working to export these people for that international certification, but that was becoming very expensive. So what we decided is to domicile even the international certification into the country. So as we speak, we have a number of vocational training institutions that are internationally accredited to provide the skills that are going to be required during the development phase. And some of them are public, some of them are private. The public ones, I can just mention a few, like the Uganda Petroleum Institute of Kigumba, we have Buhimba, we have Chema, Chiriandongo, and a number of others offering, for example, city and guilds, Opito. We are also going into ECTIB for engineering aspects, and so on. So we have also domiciled the international certification for skills that are required out of vocational training institutions. We have private people that we have attracted into our country, international institutions like the Solid Rock, Sandmaker, and a number of others, QSOCing. Some of these, the local private training institutions have even crossed the borders, and they're helping other countries, I would say, like Kenya, like Mozambique. They're also doing what they have done here in those countries. So I would say, even in skilling, we have moved strides. For now, I think we have around 1,000 technicians that have been certified internationally. I think when we start mobilizing for the projects, they will just need maybe a few refresher courses and so on, and then they can be deployed. So a lot has gone on, and actually we are also working with the IOCs to make sure those that are going to be required in huge numbers, like the heavy goods vehicle drivers, the machine operators, we are working with them. We are working with the private sector foundation to make sure they provide some funding, because the certification we are talking about is really expensive. So some of these vocational training institutions have been given some money from PSFU to raise the numbers that we are going to require and to be able to certify to the levels that are required for the development phase. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's pretty comprehensive. Pierre, I look at you not only from the vocational skills perspective. For our local Ugandan companies to be able to participate, one, they need to be able to write bankable projects so that they can get financing. So it is not just giving them skills, vocational skills, but you also need to give them some project skills. Are we looking at some of the EPC, the EPC contractor, or us as IOCs to support the local companies so that they're able to sell themselves and compete for these projects?
Yes, thank you very much, Jimmy. I fully agree with the description of Peninah on the vocational training, and we've been sometimes criticized in the pace of what we were doing, and fortunately, I think it was the kind of collateral impact of our stop and goes. Yes, true to say that we have not looked at only on the I would say the building up the capacity of the individuals and the technicians, but also the companies. And we have some experience that we have done in other countries, like in Congo, but also in Nigeria, where we are coaching in a certain way the SMEs, because those companies have difficulties to build up a business plan, to reach a certain level of HSE and the quality standards. So we have set up some plan to get platforms of support to those companies. So things are, I would say, the design is already there. And what was missing is a kind of a milestone for triggering the budget to be able to launch more concrete initiatives to support the local companies. But definitely we have this plan to have a platform to support those companies. And we have already organized a lot of forums and now more recently webinars where we are providing some support in the risk management. We are providing some support on the business skills for the executive of those companies to face this industry. So it's something that we IOCs have to do, but also our contractors who are going to be there. And we have in the plan and programs provided by those bidders a lot of training of individuals and companies. So yes, I would say the plan are theirs, but what was missing is the triggering point that we are now on verge to trigger.
Good. Any comment from a UNOC perspective around what you are doing specifically?
Thanks, Jimmy. Of course, ours is really enshrined in our national content strategy and plan. And today we are almost finalizing a memorandum of understanding with UPIC. And there we are really trying to drive, again, what Peninah has talked about, the certification of students in OPITO, City and Guilds, EC, TIB, and so on and so forth. But that being said, again, by nature of our projects, we stretch beyond just the upstream and midstream projects. When you look at the envisaged industries within the Kabale Industrial Park, you only start thinking that, okay, if I have people who are certified in such a way, are they able to play a critical role in the development of a fertilizer complex, in the development of petrochem, industrial gases? So how do we set up, a system that taps into the existing 1,000 that Peninah talked about to also, contribute to the development of what we envisage in the industrial park, plus other sectors of the economy? So still initial phases, but we have visibility on how we want to handle this through our national content strategy and plan.
Thank you very much, my panel. I think what we've done during this 45 one-hour session was to share with the Ugandans the readiness of the project. Clearly, from AGA to FID, there is some work to be done, but it is not as difficult as it's always seemed. We have the assurance from the operators that the hurdles are not there big. The work is there, but it will be done, and that FID will most likely take place before the end of this year, which means the call for tenders are coming in, and that means all Ugandans who hope to participate in the oil and gas industry have got to be ready now. If you're not signing joint ventures or if you're not attending the training, I would encourage you to. We've also heard from the regulators that there are specific services that are being domiciled here. There are specific activities which they would like to see Ugandans do. And again, please go and register on that national suppliers database so that your name is there. Get involved with some of the contractors who are looking for people. But it was also encouraging to hear from the commercial arm of government, on the fact that, yes, there is funding, yes, they are participating, and they've got a very big national content agenda. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to our conversation. Thank you.
Yes, happening now. The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum is a not-for-profit member-based organization that was founded in March 2010. The Chamber's purpose is to be the coordinating and facilitating center for information and administrative support to prospective and current investors in the mining and petroleum sectors in Uganda. It represents companies with active interest in the mining and petroleum sectors while promoting, encouraging, protecting, and fostering responsible exploration in these sectors. Its primary goal is to create value for all stakeholders. The Chamber advocates for a beneficial business environment, creation of synergies and partnerships, information dissemination, and capacity enhancement for effective national content promotion. Membership in the Chamber is open to all players across the entire value chains of mining and petroleum. National content is our flagship, and at UCMP, we believe that together we can achieve more. To register, info@ucmp.ug or call +256 393 516 695. The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, have organized the 6th Oil and Gas Convention under the theme Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for the Oil and Gas Development. Patrick Moheire, he is the Regional Group Managing Director and Regional Chief Executive Officer of Standard Bank Group for East Africa. Prior to his regional appointment, he was Chief Executive of Stanbic Bank Uganda, the largest commercial bank in the country, with assets in excess of 6.1 trillion. Happening on the 29th and 30th of September from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. live on NBS and on all social media platforms. It feels like yesterday when the black, yellow, and red colors were raised up to the sky, declaring to the world that Uganda is free and independent. Join us on our various shows and platforms as we tell the story of Uganda's independence 58 years down the road. Uganda Week from 5th to 11th of October. The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, have organized the 6th Oil and Gas Convention under the theme Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for the Oil and Gas Development. Pierre Jessua is a seasoned oil and gas business executive with over 20 years' experience within Total Group. He is currently the General Manager of Total E&P Uganda and Total Group Country Chair Uganda. Happening on the 29th and 30th of September from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. live on NBS and on all social media platforms.
Gwe kaddu oyogerera nnyo abasambi b'omupiira ku TV naye gw'olinamu
oyagala kuwakana nze omupiira nasamba mungi ate nasamba nnyo ngezesa olabe kiki ky'omanyi mu kusamba akapiira owagidde nnyo era tusiimye naye ke kaseera oyingire entabwe ate owangule.
Kwata akatambiko osooka oyogera erinnya lyo ne ttiimu gy'owagira mu Star Times Uganda Premier League. Awo olyoka otulageko ku bukodyo bw'olina mu kukyanga akapiira. Weereza akatambiko ku nnamba 0775 716 798. Abanaalondebwa abakuzannya mu kazannyo samba samba ne MTN mu ntabwe. Mwe tugenda okugabira ebirabo entoko eri oyo anaasinga okulaga waaka. Samba samba ne MTN mu ntabwe ekutuusibwako MTN, abawagizi b'omupiira gwa Uganda nnamba emu.
The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, have organized the 6th Oil and Gas Convention under the theme Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for the Oil and Gas Development. Honorable Dr. Elly Karuhanga. He is one of the founding partners of Kampala Associated Advocates, founding chairman of the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, and currently chairman Private Sector Foundation Uganda. He is also a former president and director of Hadman Petroleum Resources, which discovered oil in Uganda in 2006. He was the president and director of Tullow Uganda Operations Pty Limited and was the senior advisor Africa for Tullow Oil. Honorable Elly Karuhanga has worked in diplomatic capacity as a Honorary Consul General of the Republic of Seychelles to Uganda since 2005. Happening on the 29th and 30th of September from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. live on NBS and on all social media platforms. With every second of every minute, every hour of every day, something is making the news around the globe. Unlike the old days, you don't have to wait anymore. Now, with NowPost, you get every story as it happens. Just log on to nowpost.co.ug or simply download our mobile app and catch all the breaking news in real time from anywhere. It's quick and easy to use. The Now Post, your accurate news fast. The Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, have organized the 6th Oil and Gas Convention under the theme Future Outlook, Regional Preparedness for the Oil and Gas Development. Pamela Natamba. Pamela is a tax partner at PwC with over 15 years experience in tax consulting and advisory services both in Uganda and in the UK. She has provided advisory service to a number of multinational clients in a broad range of industries including oil and gas, banking, insurance, telecommunications, manufacturing, energy and utilities. She also provides support to the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum as an advisor to the council and local content matters. Happening on the 29th and 30th of September from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. live on NBS and on all social media platforms. NBS happening now.
Welcome back from that short break. Would like to thank our previous panel for a comprehensive discussion. We now have a good feel of what is happening in the oil and gas sector and what some of the plans are from the perspective of the National Oil Company, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, as well as our key players, Total, E&P. We are moving into our next session now, and this session here has a mix of the public sector and also the private sector. And with us here is an important person from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. Mr. Robert Kasande is the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. Robert has worked with the ministry and he has experience for over 32 years. He started off his career as a field geologist, but he's risen through the ranks to his current position. At the ministry, he's been instrumental in the oil discovery. So he started this journey with the ministry, and he has also been responsible for coordinating the developments in the infrastructure projects, that is the pipeline project and the refinery project. He holds an MSc in Petroleum Geophysics from Texas A&M University and has since had various management training qualifications. This morning, he's going to bring us the perspective from the Ministry of Energy in terms of how government ministries and agencies will support the private players in the oil development in the region, not just in Uganda, but in the region as well. So welcome, Mr. Robert Kasande. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank the organizers of this event once again, thank you very much for the invitation. I'd like to start by thanking the organizers, Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, for this very good event. I'm very happy to be here at this time because the timing is right. We are now moving. You probably heard earlier from His Excellency the President, the various meetings that we've had in this September are kickstarting the best momentum that we can all wish for in this project. I was invited to share what government ministries and agencies are doing to enhance private sector participation. It's not what we're doing, but also most importantly, what we have done. Because if we talk of what we are going to do, we are too late. A lot of things have gone into preparing Ugandans to meaningfully participate in this project. The ministry has had various studies that look to enhance participation of Ugandans. This started especially when we made the discoveries in 2006. As you may have heard earlier, we've now discovered 6.5 billion barrels of oil. We may produce about 1.5 billion barrels, but a lot more is being put into exploration for us to be able to find some more oil so that the infrastructure that we're putting in place can be fully utilized. I would like to give credit to those Ugandans who are very instrumental in the discovery of oil because this has brought the opportunities that we're talking about today. The investments that are going to be made in the coming 4 to 5 years are huge by any standards in this economy, $15 to $20 billion. And we think that from our experience during the exploration and appraisal phase, a substantial amount needs to be retained in this country for the companies that are domiciled here that are Ugandan. During the exploration and appraisal, we ensured that about 28% remained in country. That translated to about $945 million from about $3.5 billion that was spent. But most importantly, the government has put the right policies and legislation to ensure that this happens. The key policy that we did in 2008, the National Oil and Gas Policy, has 2 key principles. Objective 7, that ensures that there is optimum national participation in the sector. Objective 8 ensures that there is national expertise that is retained in the country. Of course, this now has been augmented by the National Content Policy of 2018 and various laws that we've done, especially in 2013, the upstream law, the midstream law. All these have been followed up by local content regulations that we developed in 2016 to ensure that, whoever is participating, there is legislation that is anchoring that participation. The laws of 2013 ensured that we create the right atmosphere, the right institutions. The Petroleum Authority of Uganda, the National Oil Company of Uganda were all created following the law of 2013. And indeed, we are beginning to see dividends of separating the roles. Before 2013, we were one ministry that was doing everything, regulation, business aspects and policy. But now that we're getting into the feel of doing the work, we see the importance of having a regulator who is independent from the ministry, as well as independent from the business aspect that UNOC is doing. So when the discovery happened in 2006, we set out and said, we need to learn from those people who have been there. But also we need to learn from those who have not done too well. So we set out to look at countries like Norway and Malaysia and Brazil who have done relatively well. But we also said, what is it that has gone wrong in Africa? I recall that time when we were traveling to Nigeria in 2007. The media was awash by the decision we had taken to go to a country that has not done well. But for us, we said, in order to avoid the pitfalls, we must understand. And indeed, we've learned a lot from Nigeria. We benchmarked also in Canada, in Ghana, and in Angola. We have also undertaken various studies. I heard Peninah earlier talking about the opportunities and challenges for participation of Ugandans that was done way back in 2011. We did the industrial baseline survey of 2013 and the capacity needs analysis, which has culminated into the workforce skills development strategy and plan. All those have informed us what is it that we need to do to ensure that Ugandans participate meaningfully. As a result of our benchmarking, we came up with a definition of what we think local content or national content should be. And in this country, it is defined as the value added or created in the Ugandan economy through the employment of Ugandan citizens and the use of goods produced or available in Uganda and services provided by Ugandan citizens and enterprises. It's a definition that many people have asked, is it quantifiable? Yes, it is, because like we said earlier, we know how many people have been employed so far in the industry. And therefore, we project how many will be employed in the country. And for us, that is value added. We know how many people have participated in supply of goods and services. And it's very easy to quantify that. The national content is developed under 5 pillars. One of them is use of locally produced goods and services, employment of Ugandan citizens, capacity building of Uganda's human resource, enterprise development, transfer of technology and research and development. The goal of the national content is to achieve in-country value creation and retention while ensuring competitiveness, ensuring efficiency and effectiveness. And I think, listening to the earlier panel here, without efficiency and competitiveness, even the projects that we're designing now will not be meaningful. And I think we are ensuring that that is achieved. So what has been government support to private sector? These studies of the skills development strategy and plan have informed us of how many people will be required by this industry. And what we have done is to start to train. We worked very hard years back to work with Makerere University to start a bachelor's course. We also worked with them to start a master's course in petroleum geoscience and production. And they have been churning out quite skilled Ugandans. Of course, many of them have not found work yet in country because the operations had not kicked off. But all is good because I speak to some of them that interned with us and they say we are in Saudi Arabia working for Slamba Jail. That is good for us, and a time will come when they can come and work in country. Those that are still in country, when we start the development phase, they will be able to supply their services to the industry. Key to this training has been technicians, because we know that the development phase requires the hands-on people. So we've emphasized welding, rigging, scaffolding, plumbing, things that we take for granted. We think that if I'm building a house, I can call on a plumber and there you go. But plumbing in electricals, for that matter, in oil and gas is another ball game. So we've ensured that the people we're training are trained by, first of all, accredited institutions, that they are certified, and they will do the job without the company saying, oh no, you don't have the right skills. So we have domiciled the accreditation institutions. Initially, we'll take people to Norway, we'll take people to Trinidad and Tobago, but that was quite expensive for us to do accreditation. Now we are able to do it in country. We also hold quarterly skills dialogue of trainers, these institutions, so that they can tell us what is it that they need to enhance their capacities. One of the things that I credit His Excellency the President is to have had that foresight to train Ugandans. Many of us have gone through the programs out there in countries that have had oil and gas for centuries. And over 200 officers from various MDAs, from various ministries, departments, and agencies have gone through training and are doing a good job. I'll set an example of the team we work with at URA. So much has been learned on how the oil industry works, and we are beginning to realize the taxes that we need to realize. So the training has been in petroleum engineering, geology, geophysics, law, economics, taxation, finance, among others. And we continue to train various emerging requirements. HSE, we are training a lot of people now from the Ministry of Water and also from NEMA. We're working with NEMA to build that capacity. In terms of small and medium enterprises, you'll be surprised. A lot of people don't win contracts because of small things like how do you put across a winning bid. So we've gone out to work with industry and to ensure that people understand what is it that if I'm going to be able to participate can be a winning bid. Bookkeeping, things like bookkeeping are very critical. HSE. So we've done a lot as a country to ensure that our people are prepared. Of course, the numbers are still small, but all effort is on to increase those resources. During exploration and appraisal, out of about 1,000 employees, 700 were Ugandan employees. That is quite substantial and commendable, and we are working towards even bettering that statistic. We also enforce succession planning. Yes, if you come and say, I am Total or I'm Nabbanja and I don't have the right manager in Uganda, we say, okay, can you ensure that in 5 years you have that manager? So we're trying as much as possible to enforce succession planning so that in 5 years to come or thereabout, we have a good stock of Ugandans who can participate meaningfully, not only for small jobs, but also managerial jobs. Working with the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, we have put in place a National Oil and Gas Training Register, Talent Register, that gives visibility of who in the country has the talent or has the capacities and to work in the industry. I encourage our Ugandan youth to get onto this register, especially after they have had training in oil and gas. We have also, after the creation of the National Supplier Database, a database that ensures that the people who are able to supply the industry get to. It's a database that gives one visibility, but also if a Ugandan company is looking to joint venture, this is where the other party will look. So it's important that our companies get to that database. We are also working towards setting up an industrial enhancement center that will work in a sense that the people who are registered on the National Supplier Database are able to go for skills training through the enhancement center and improve. If I've been supplying goods worth $1 million, or I could improve and target categories that are better contracts through going through the Industrial Enhancement Center. A lot of people have asked us, the financing in this country is pretty much prohibitive to go out to get affordable financing. What is it that you are doing for Ugandan companies to meaningfully participate, to be able to stay in the business? So when we did the national content policy, we ensure that we enshrine in there a requirement that there will be a percentage from each of these contracts that will go to the local content fund. And we think that if this is administered right, people should be able to get affordable financing so that they are able to compete in the industry. Earlier on, I heard there was one of the things that we have ensured that is done within our regulations is to ring-fence some of the projects, some of the contracts that you are able to supply, some of the services have been ring-fenced. And we did this because we were using experience. What was it that Ugandans were able to supply during the exploration and appraisal phase? So things like transportation, hotel accommodation, catering, human resource management, civil works. We think that Ugandans should be the ones to be able to do these things. Land surveying, and name it. So as a result, I think the right things have been done, and they continue to be done by government to ensure that our people will be able to participate meaningfully. When we benchmarked in 2007, one of the things that really opened our eyes was, while there had been billions of dollars spent to develop the oil industry in Nigeria, most of that benefited somebody in Houston, Texas, and not in Nigeria. So we said, what is it that we can do? And like I said, we learned quite a bit, because Nigeria is not where they were 13 years ago. They have been even able to develop their capacities, that they are moving into the region, into Africa, to take up licenses, which is very commendable, and that is our aspiration. When we created Uganda National Oil Company, we said you must be a company that will build competences and capacities that, should the oil run out in Uganda, because our basin is that much. You can't compare us with South Sudan or Kenya or Tanzania. Should you run out of oil in this country, the competences that will be built should be able to be exported and get licenses and work them in the region. So going forward, we think that our participation and our aspiration is that by 2040, 80% participation in our sector will be achieved by Ugandans. We also are promoting joint venturing. One, of course, it's the business itself, but also you build technology. You get to understand the technology as a local company to be able to participate meaningfully. In terms of regional participation, how we are encouraging our Ugandans, we have been speaking with the Mozambican government to see if they can, engage some of the SMEs who have built capacity in the LNG project, because the LNG project is huge. And what better learning can you get from a project like that? So we have commenced to see if our Ugandans can also join and participate in that project to build capacity largely. We're also working on a community content strategy where the communities that are hosts to these companies, these projects, can benefit. For instance, the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, we're working with the government of Tanzania through the African Development Bank, that in each of these towns that are traversed by the East African Crude Pipeline, the SMEs are built. The SMEs are built to be able to participate, even in things like coating, for instance, supply along the whole pipeline route. So, in a nutshell, the oil and gas sector has the potential to contribute to the development of the economy beyond direct contribution, because we think that the revenues that come from the oil and gas sector can, be spread into other linkages of the economy. We have set out a petroleum fund through the Ministry of Finance, and with that, we think that, first of all, the revenues will be managed transparently. Recently, you learned that we have joined the EITI, and that's one of the ways for governance in oil and gas, and indeed in all extractives. So in conclusion, I I must say that we emphasize that government is ready and has put in place the necessary tools to support private sector players, but also encourage private sector to be proactive, to be, whenever there is information that is going around, when there is a conference like this, you are able to participate and get to know what is coming. I was happy to hear the General Manager of Total, again emphasizing that we're going to be taking FID end of this year. It's critical for us because that's when meaningful participation commences. I thank you very much for the invitation and I wish you the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kasande. We do appreciate the insight that you have given to us around what the government is doing, particularly the Ministry of Energy. So as Ugandans, we are proud to hear that you are already looking at a number of initiatives and you've already put others in place in terms of training, in terms of partnering with the government of Tanzania and making sure that you are preparing us to take part in this development. So we do appreciate you. Thank you very much. Sure. Okay, so we are going to move into the next part of this program, and I will request Sam to give us a brief before we then take it to the panel. Thank you.
Okay, surprise, surprise. The permanent secretary has changed into me. So thank you very much again, Mr. Kasande, for your time. We know that you're very busy, which is why we didn't want to delay you for the whole session. But I believe that you've been sitting there with us and enjoying and listening to all of these conversations. I want to put my part in towards the end in the conclusion for you, because we have a very packed program. And I believe that you would have seen we have the regional MD and CEO of Standard Bank, who is waiting online. We also have another from Bureau Veritas online as well. And I want to introduce you very quickly and briefly to the panelists that we have who are going to be participating in this topic today of the readiness of the nation for oil and gas development. So, without further ado, I just want to, Pamela, I think I want to just quickly let you know that we have with us, I think Patrick is there, Mr. Patrick Mugerwa is there, as you can see him. We've caught him off guard. He is there. He is going to be involved with us. As you may or may not know, he is now in charge of the region for Standard Bank, or Stanbic as we know it here. We also have with us Mr. Daniel Muwoya. Daniel is the commercial manager for UNOC. You've heard from his boss. We're now going to be able to tackle and ask a few more harder questions to him now that Proscovia is gone. Welcome, Daniel. We also have Mr. Ronnie Musoke, who is here. Ronnie has a very interesting job as a fund manager for what we are calling the Insurance Consortium of Uganda. The insurance companies have got together and they have created an environment which means that we do not have to look for outside insurance from Uganda. All insurance works for the large volume of transactions that we have in this sector, and the size of the transactions required are going to be handled by this consortium. They've been doing a phenomenal job already in the background, and I want to hear, and you will hear also a lot more from Ronnie about that. We also have Mr. Alex Mboya Manzi. Alex is the CEO of Uganda Shippers Council and Projects Logistics Consultant. I know you may be surprised that Uganda, being a landlocked country, has a Shippers Council, but Alex will explain to you why we have that, what they do, and also how they're going to get involved in this sector. What have they done for the readiness for this sector? And we will also have online Mr. Cyprian Kabis, who is the District Chief Executive for Bureau Veritas. Bureau Veritas does extremely good work globally in ensuring that we have up-to-date standards and compliance of those standards within private and public sector. So a fully packed session this afternoon now. So I think what we will do is let's start off with some questions and some information from each of our panelists. I think, Pamela, I think best to start with I think the burning question of finance, and maybe if Patrick is still online. Patrick, you're very welcome. I hope you can hear us loud and clear.
I can hear you, thanks you. Good to be here.
So our thing for you will be considering the unique nature of the oil and gas projects. We've taken a number of years to complete. It's a long process. There are high risks involved. Government involvement and private sector involvement always requires a certain amount of deliberation. What financing options are available for the contractors, subcontractors, and how prepared is our banking sector, not only in Uganda, but in the region, to manage and participate meaningfully? You've just heard the issues of interest rates, etc. So how are we going to be able to participate in this?
No, thank you for that question. Fortunately, we've been planning for this, as you know, for the last 3 to 5 years. So we're very well prepared with coming up with solutions. The first point I will make that it's actually beyond just lending for the banks. At the end of the day, we need to take solutions that have worked elsewhere. Fortunately, we're involved in many of the oil and gas markets across sub-Saharan Africa, whether it's Angola, Nigeria, Mozambique, Ghana. So there's several lessons that we've learned that we want to glean onto the Ugandan market. One is that the IOCs are actually very key to this in terms of de-risking how we finance these projects. And in my conversations with Total and all the IOCs, they're very supportive. As you know, when you're working through these contracts, you win a contract and you do need some sort of form of financing to carry you over to execute the contract. And as you execute, you do get paid, etc. So on the onset, it doesn't actually require you to have a massive borrowing to get into the contract up and running. But what you do need is a way to look through the risks and mitigate them. So the first thing is that the IOCs have actually been very, very productive and welcoming in how we can sign up tripartite agreements with them in order to de-risk and provide liquidity to the contractors and the subcontractors. Secondly, and we just got involved in a transaction where we raised 300 million euros for the government of Uganda just a couple of months ago. So I can tell you that there's a lot of appetite for Ugandan risk, but well-structured transactions. We were able to price that transaction very, very competitively and raise $300 million. So there is no shortage of liquidity globally for well-thought-out and well-structured transactions. So that's the second point that I would make. From a Ugandan context, at Stanbic, we have a single obligor limit of about $60 million that we can invest in one project. But we do have ownership. Our largest shareholder is ICBC Bank in China, the largest bank in the world. And they've also demonstrated the appetite to invest in this oil and gas sector in Uganda. So there's no shortage of money. But let's also keep in mind, and this is very important, that debt is not the only solution. There are equity solutions as well. There's mezzanine debt. There are several ways in which to skin the cat. But we just want to have that conversation. We have many, many case studies on how we can work together. It's not always about borrowing from the bank. Sometimes it just requires just a little bit more thought and a conversation with the contractor to make sure that you appropriately funded to execute on the transaction. So I would encourage that we do have conversations about this. I know some of my colleagues in the banking sector are equally prepared. So we're ready to basically do business. I would also add that in the region, Kenya has also obviously found oil and gas, and they've also been preparing and having conversations about raising money for a pipeline to Lamu. And I've been privy to some of those conversations. I've been privy to the conversations about developing gas in Tanzania. And I can tell you the region has a good standing amongst foreign investors and lenders. So there's a lot of excitement about this sector and this region. So I'm not really concerned that we would not find the liquidity to fund the oil and gas projects in Uganda. Thank you.
The importance of insurance in the oil and gas developments, would like to hear from your side to what extent the lender's consideration or considerations will impact the insurance sector. We are aware that as insurers, you've come together through the insurance consortium for the oil and gas in Uganda. And I would like to believe you've had conversations around funding. So just share what your context is and how you think you're going to be affected.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. First of all, I thank Ugandan Chamber of Mines and Petroleum for organizing the convention. It's always a pleasure to partner with yourselves. Back to the question about the concern of lenders, being that they're pumping huge sums of money. We're mindful that when this is the case, then most often than not, they would prefer to actually be involved in the placement of the insurance as well, or reinsurance for that matter, because of the financial interest that they have in these projects. But the assurance I would like to give the lenders is that the kind of reinsurance or insurance that we're going to be sourcing for these projects is going to be with what we call the A-rated reinsurance markets. Now, these are international markets, and we rate them as well, and we're looking at the best out there. So the comfort that they should have is that the reinsurers that will be involved in these massive projects will be A-rated. And the way they are going to be selected is also going to be very highly transparent and competitive to make sure that we get the best terms out there and that we get the best panel of reinsurers to participate in these risks. What we also do is, just to again give comfort to the lenders, is we have what we call them having interest in the reinsurance arrangements. So we do this by way of adding them onto the contracts, just to give them that level of comfort as well. So what we could say is they should be comfortable that we will not go out there and look for securities which are not up to the mark. So we'll make sure that the securities that are brought on board actually measure up to the, first of all, the technicalities of the project, the size of the project, and also the complexity that it presents.
Very good. So I think, yeah, so now, Pamela, I think it's whilst we've now gone straight in with finance and the insurance side, and we're still talking about the money aspects, and before we forget the words of Madame Proscovia for UNOC, I want to throw, gently place the cat amongst the pigeons for UNOC here, for Daniel. Daniel, UNOC is an oil company in its own right, national oil company. Now, as a national oil company, it requires to have funds, yet UNOC is 100% government owned. You are therefore looking at the availability of funds from the Ministry of Finance, maybe Ministry of Energy. Tell me, what available strategies is UNOC now going to implement and have at its disposal to look at these aspects of either the mix of government funds and private equity, or how are you going to ensure that the national oil company is going to be able to work with these tried and tested giant oil companies that are now with us and our JV partners?
Yeah, thanks, Sam. And like Proscovia said, we are looking at close to $1 billion in the equity. Oh, sorry about that. We're looking at close to $1 billion as equity contribution for what UNOC needs in these strategic projects, from the pipeline to the refinery to exploration. And we've adopted different strategies. Being a government-owned entity, definitely the Ministry of Finance has a role to play, and we are in touch already, like Proscovia said. We're in discussions, early discussions with Ministry of Finance, early discussions with the finance market here and internationally. And we've developed strategies around this, and I'll mention just a few. For example, it's strategic partnerships has become a very key anchor in our strategic financing drive, because we have entities, we have the projects here and the value with the projects, but we have entities out there in the world that would have the capital and the technical capabilities. And using these strategic partnerships, we're able to, identify those entities that have, similar strategic objectives that we do. And we've taken that and identified the ones that have the most competitive rates and terms to deal with on the different projects, be it KST, where we have a process going on to identify KST is the Kampala storage terminal. That will be built at Buloba. And we're looking at 3 very, very competitive consortia that have different blends of players that have similar strategic needs to what we have. We have the Kabale Industrial Park. We have a different mix of 2 consortia looking to partner with us in that. So strategic partnership is one key aspect that we have looked at. And like Patrick said, the money markets are quite interested in the region and in this industry, both for debt and for equity and for the different kinds of hybrid products that the good lenders are able to come up with. So we are looking at all these. We're looking at debt. We're looking at equity from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Energy, our shareholders. But we're also looking at strategic partnership as a key driver for financing these projects.
That's going to be very interesting as well. And in all of this mix as well, Daniel, how would the Joe public, the Ugandan like myself and Pamela here, how do we participate with the National Oil Company? Are you looking at is there a possibility of an IPO? Is there a possibility of you being listed and us investing? Because we're not going to now go out and start digging the grounds to look for oil ourselves, but we still want to enjoy the benefits that the crude will have as a nation.
Yeah. First of all, the answer is yes. The first answer is yes. The question then is when. There will be a question of when, because the law as it is today requires that the National Oil Company is wholly owned by the government. But being in the business world, we've been 5 years now, we've identified that, for example, public listing could be a good avenue to encourage participation, but also raise money. And so that's on the cards, but maybe not for now, because there are requirements by the Capital Markets Authority, for example, for you to put an IPO on. There are also requirements for ourselves to take the project some distance, drive value, create the value, and then when the value is created, definitely I think it is only rational that at some point for some of the projects we shall then have public listing. But there are other instruments, like infrastructure bonds, and other kinds of instruments that we have started to evaluate to attract capital from the markets.
That's great news. Pamela.
Thank you very much, Daniel. I'd now like to step away from the financing discussion and take it to the standards. I hope, Cyprian, you can hear us. Cyprian is joining us online from his premises. Cyprian, you've been in this business of standards for quite some time now, and you've done some great work on the international scene. And while a lot of work has been undertaken to improve standards and update standards in Uganda, what's your feel? Are these standards being enforced already? Do you think there's more we should be doing at this point in time? Please share your experience.
First of all, I would like to thank the Uganda Chamber of Mines and the Petroleum for organizing this. In terms of the work that has been done, I think from the standards standpoint, what we would be looking for at the moment, a number of stakeholders are preparing to break ground, we would be asking ourselves, issues to the health and safety standard. I have had during the conversations that there has been trainings done. We do think that work has been done, but there's still a lot to be done. When it comes to health and safety, we are talking about looking at the use of heavy electrical work, and all these need to have it done at level. But we also have, of course, the environmental standard. The fact that all this work is going to be a lot of activities which are grade the environment is not taken care of. Obviously, we also have the quality management standard, those EPC that work on different sections of the project, sure that actually comply and now, in terms of yes, but there's still some of them are visible at the design and construction. We will be talking about calibration of all the vessels so that you are at the actual output from the oil source. All this needs that we are talking about non-destructive effluents, certain standards, the pipelines to hold the required pressure. We talked about the well gas stations. Yes, I think there's some work that was done, but we still there's a lot to be done. If we're talking about the pipeline that is in excess of 1 kilometers, I think there is still a lot of work and Peninah with and have them set to such standard. Welding a pipeline is the same as welding a window or requires certification, and the welders certified to then obviously have the transport. These are all governed by the standards where we transport to the pipeline. After the pipeline is going to be loaded, so it still has to be transported into some standard to reach the destination for you to realize ultimate value of the product. Key to us is the security, and this. So, well, good to have. It must be to it in a very sustainable manner. So we have sustainability standards that I believe the EP have to comply with. We have the special standards that we comply with. Pipeline is something in community countries. We do not want cultures that need to be done. Obviously, the comes with a lot of hosting, procurement. So we are talking about responsible standards have to be applied. More about, we are talking about huge amounts of money, very huge project. So we need to think about anti-bribery. We have
yes. So, Cyprian. Thank you very much, Cyprian. I think we're also very mindful of time, and I think that we've just got some technical difficulties with regards to following up on all the valid points and salient points you have made. We'll try and get back to you in a short while, whilst we continue with the discussion within the studio as well. So please hold on. We'll try and work something out on that side. I think I think there's bits and pieces within that, Pam. I think we can summarize towards the end. I picked up a bit of what Cyprian was saying, but I think let's move on to our next question. Yeah?
Okay, Sam. Okay, our next question then will go to Alex. Alex, there's a lot that has been talked about this morning in terms of collaboration between the Ugandan government and the Tanzanian government. And we know that the infrastructure that's going to be put in place is crossing over from Uganda into Tanzania. First of all, would like you to, talk us through the preparedness from our perspective as Ugandans and your involvement as one of the shippers in terms of discussions that are happening with the relevant authorities. The examples here I can think about is, for example, the Kenya Ports Authority, our tax authorities, to ensure appropriate transition of whatever needs to take place in terms of our transportation, and what role you're playing as the Shippers Council, and then what more you think needs to be happening.
Thank you, Pamela. And, Sam. Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to the Chamber for organizing this convention, bringing us all together once again. It's very different, clearly, from the last few years, but it's good to be back. So the Uganda Shippers Council is a forum, an association for companies involved in international trade. Mainly, Uganda is import-oriented, so we have many importing companies who are also suppliers to various sectors of the economy. So their international supply chains are sometimes curtailed by various challenges. And we try to advise them how to address or mitigate these issues to do with trade. We do some capacity building, training in terms of Incoterms, also interfacing with government policymakers, and how to facilitate trade for them. Now, clearly, we also interact a lot with logistics players who are a big part of the supply chain. They are our partners in import and export. And some of them are suppliers to the oil sector, oil and gas sector. So we are very keen and interested in the development of the two corridors, Northern Corridor, anchored at Mombasa, and the Central Corridor, anchored at Dar es Salaam. Uganda has been, of course, over the years, heavily dependent on the Northern Corridor. So the stakeholders in the Northern Corridor, especially led by the Kenya Ports Authority, have made tremendous improvements in the last decade, which are very clear to see. At this point in time, by end of last year, out of 34 million tons incoming, the port of Mombasa, 8.2 million tons were for Uganda. So we're the biggest transit market for Mombasa and growing. So clearly, in terms of the projects, the oil and gas projects, it is very key that KPA and their partners in Kenya are actually trying to keep ahead of the demand in terms of growth. There's a lot of capacity expansion that has taken place at the port. We've got new terminals. The standard gauge railway development has taken place up to Naivasha, which is now halfway between Mombasa Port and Kampala, so you can have intermodal movement of cargo by rail. And there's a lot of interconnectivity being arranged at Naivasha from standard gauge to meter gauge railway. So you'll be able to transfer your cargo by rail from standard gauge to meter gauge to Kampala or to onwards to other parts of the country. And also, of course, road transport is the biggest conveyor of cargo coming into this country. And we've been told that this project will have 5 million tons for the upstream development, of which 20% or about 1 million will be imports. So we, as the Shippers Council, we are constantly engaging with the port authorities in Mombasa and Dar es Salaam to make them aware of this, so that their capacity expansions can actually meet the future demand. And they are assuring us that they are ready. And we have visited several times, Mombasa and Kampala and Dar es Salaam, to actually inspect facilities, Tanga Port as well, Mwanza Port, to look at also transport across the lake. So there's been a lot of investment, I must say, also in railways, improvement of the meter gauge. So in terms of logistics capacity, I think the East African governments are very serious, and because they will benefit. You can see Tanzania from ECOP alone will have 70% of the pipeline, and out of 500,000 tons, obviously, most of the materials will be there and the jobs created there. So logistics is a key cog in all these projects, and as shippers, we work closely with logistics players, and we hope we can add value to the projects when they start through our competencies. Thank you.
Excellent. Alex, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special, I would say, information now for you as our viewers. So I'm going to keep those thoughts going about what we have just discussed, but I'm going to request that we switch to the clip which has been produced for us by His Excellency Jules Armand Anyambasu, who is the French ambassador to Uganda. And as you know, Total being a French company, it'll be an honor for us to listen to his words and see what the French government and their intake of how Total is going to work in Uganda will be. So if we can roll the clip, please, we can go straight into that now.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président de la République d'Ouganda. Bonjour à tous les participants à cette convention. Merci au docteur Elly Karuhanga et à la Chambre des mines et du pétrole d'Ouganda de l'avoir organisée. Et merci à Monsieur Terraz d'y participer. His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda. Honorable Ministers and Members of Parliament. Your Excellencies, the Ambassadors and High Commissioners. Honorable Dr. Elly Karuhanga, Chairman of the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. Monsieur Nicolas Terraz, Senior Vice President, Africa for Total, E&P. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to participate with you in the 6th Annual Oil and Gas Convention organized by the Ugandan Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. Let me first salute His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni for taking time to be part of this convention. This meeting is particularly relevant because it comes at a time when Uganda is embarking on the development phase of the oil and gas project, which will allow Uganda to join the very selective club of oil-producing countries. As you may all know, the French company Total is one of the main actors investing in that project. And we French, we are very, very proud of that. This new and promising journey was made possible because of the constant and tireless progress in Uganda. Thinking about the last 30 years of your country, one word comes to my mind: stability. This is probably one of the most important achievements that shaped Uganda's trajectory in this region in the last 3 decades. In the 70s and the 80s, Uganda was unfortunately synonym of uncontrolled violence. Today, Uganda is supporting the stability of the region. In Somalia, for instance. Beyond its borders, Uganda have taken its share in designing a better future for Eastern Africa. As a matter of fact, among the drivers of Uganda's foreign policy, the quest for East African integration have constantly been pursued by Ugandan leadership. Together with the promotion of economic liberalism, it has been a pillar for sustainable growth. Of course, unfortunately, COVID-19 came and is slowing down the perspectives for development. But a structural economic achievement remains in place. But let me come back just a moment to the subject of regional integration, because it is an important part of the strategy developed by Uganda to achieve faster and more sustainable development. As we did in Europe, and France is playing a leading role there, Ugandan policymakers understood that you cannot hope anymore for long-term growth. You cannot win the battle for the employment of the youth on your own. They understood that developing and consolidating trade and economic relations with their neighbors are vital. They also understood that foreign investments and equal partnerships were multipliers for business. If you are interested in my advice, let me tell you that Uganda is an attractive place for investment. It is attractive as long as political stability and democracy are ensured, as long as security and rule of law are preserved, as long as the interest of the nations prevails. We are, all of us, gathered today because we believe strongly these conditions are met. And France is engaged side by side with the Ugandans to protect their common goods, peace, and development. Back to the Lake Albert Development Project, in which between 15 and $20 billion will be invested over 3 to 5 years. Such projects brings many opportunities for Uganda, but also for the bilateral relation between Uganda and France. For Uganda, this development presents huge opportunities for business and employment in various sectors. Additionally, the different studies undertaken in the sector have indicated that approximately 160,000 jobs will be required at the peak of construction of the projects directly and indirectly. At the bilateral level, France was in 2018, the 10th investor in Uganda, far behind the main investors. That should change. We could do better and better. It's for that significant prospects exist in connection with the project of development of the Lake Albert, which may offer a lot of business opportunities for French companies. It may also be an occasion to develop economic partnerships between Ugandan and French companies. In some activities, it may be interesting for Ugandan companies to form joint ventures with experienced foreign companies to take advantage of the technical expertise and financial capacity to participate in the provision of goods and services across the value chain. It can be an occasion for Ugandan companies to tap into the skill sets and expertise from the French companies. You can count on the French embassy to support all initiatives aiming at reinforcing the partnership between our two countries. For instance, a partnership between UCMP, Ugandan Chamber Mines and Petroleum, and French Mining Companies Association in order to support dialogue, capacities building, technology or expertise transfer, and create a link between Ugandan companies and potential business partners in France. Another example, cooperation with French schools to help improve teaching and skills acquisition in that domain. In addition to Uganda's stability, providing an investor-friendly environment, I could only support all efforts that can be made to provide a business environment conducive to foreign direct investment. France will also support all efforts being made for breaking artificial barriers that shaped our perceptions of this continent. I am notably speaking about barriers between English-speaking and French-speaking countries. I'm ambitious for the development of teaching French in Uganda because French will be an asset for your professionals partnering with our companies. And it will also be an asset for your business women and businessmen looking toward Central and West Africa. By choosing French, you choose to broaden your business horizon. And I'm somehow tirelessly telling to those who believed that French was only about culture, literature, and poetry, that they are partially only wrong. French is more than ever synonym of new opportunities. Almost 3 years ago, President Macron at the University of Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso underlined how mutual respect, equality, and shared benefits are at the core of the new relationship between France and its African partners. At the University of Ouagadougou in November 2017, the French president highlighted how to develop a new partnership between France and its African partners is key for cooperation between two continents that are neighbors. First one, the African continent. Second one, the European continent. We are neighbors. And President Macron added that if Africa fails, Europe and France cannot thrive. So it is in our common interest to continue working together to develop partnerships, to create and share values in a kind of relationship based on mutual respect, equality, and reciprocity. It is my mission in Uganda to translate it into action, and I'm fully committed. Je souhaite un plein succès à cette convention à laquelle la France est fière et honorée de participer. Vive l'Ouganda, vive la France.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Ambassador. I'm glad we managed to slot that in. That's a very important note and address for us. France is open for business, and France wants to do business with Uganda, so that's a good sign. Now, ladies and gentlemen, and our viewers, and everyone in the audience here, we are running out of time, so I think the best thing for us to do now is, with regards to the readiness of the nation for oil and gas development, with our panelists here, if we can allow you 1 or 2 minutes to summarize in your sector and in your capacity, where do you think we are? Are we ready? Are we going to be successful in this venture? I think let's start with my right here. So once we've got that, and don't forget, we still have Patrick online, and I hope we still have Cyprian online as well to conclude.
Okay, thank you. I'll just touch on 2 aspects of infrastructure within our borders. And that is, one, the one-stop border posts at Malaba and Busia, which are the main entry points. Potentially, they can be a bottleneck for such a project. So we need to be very careful. We need to have Malaba, both of them as 24-hour border points. You've seen the congestion that happened during this COVID-19, 50-kilometer traffic jam. So you can imagine if you have an oil and gas project and that's happening. So, but good enough, we have partners who are helping. I think Trademark East Africa is helping to construct the access roads towards the new bridge, connecting the new bridge on both sides. Because the old bridge was a single lane which was collapsing. Now we have a new bridge. And then they're going to build staff quarters for within the customs controlled area so that the staff can stay there and work there 24 hours. Then you'll have smoother flow. And you've got also investments in software, integrated border management. So that's a very potential bottleneck we need to look at in terms of readiness. And then finally, I can also commend UNRWA for the critical oil roads, which we understand is well on track. Out of 700 kilometers, 12 roads. We understand by end of 2021, about 550 kilometers will be done. Some are being handed over. So that is a very good, critical for the upstream development and also the midstream. So I just wanted to point out those 2 areas. Thank you.
For insurance, in terms of preparedness, what we've done as a sector is we've introduced an insurance consortium, which was launched last year. And this has been supported by the regulator as well. And where we are now is to conclude with PAU in terms of putting in place regulations for writing oil and gas business. What we've also done as a sector is to conduct training. The training is done both in country and also out of the country. We've got partners in the region and also in other parts of Africa. And As we're doing that, we're also carrying out benchmarking engagements with countries which are involved in oil and gas. So all this is in terms of preparing us with the risks that we're expected to write once we're given the opportunity to participate in the sector.
Brilliant. That's very good news that all three countries are participating in the insurance side to make sure that the border lines are clear and there's no issues border to border.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. Alec,
Daniel, thank you, Sam. If there's one word we should take away from this event, I think it's sustainability. Whether it's logistics or operations, sustainability will be key, and two aspects of sustainability. First is national participation, and we've spoken about it at length. And UNOC is championing national participation by participating on behalf of the government and on behalf of Ugandans within these projects. And we are engaging the financial markets and the government to raise the necessary equity funding to participate in these projects. So national participation is the first aspect of sustainability, and environmental responsibility is the next, as we all participate as shareholders, as logistics players, even insurance participants. Our respect for the environment will be very, very important, especially given the areas where these oil and gas projects are being executed. In Uganda, in Makishan Falls, and all the environmentally sensitive areas, but also through our neighbors in Tanzania as we export the crude oil through Tanzania. So thank you, Chamber, for organizing this. Sustainability is the keyword.
Brilliant. Can we get Patrick online? Patrick, any final words and thoughts?
For me, the big takeaway is that how do we get the local capacity prepared? Because if it's $15 to $20 billion that's going to be invested in the country, how much of that is going to be invested locally? So our big push has been to kind of build capacity with the SMEs, because the SMEs, obviously because they're local business, have a much higher multiplier effect in terms of impact to the economy. But when we've looked at the SMEs and we recognize that, yes, funding is an issue, but there are other more pressing issues that we need to resolve at the SME level to make them really capable of participating in this oil and gas story. As you know, we started an incubator in Kampala. We've now taken that incubator regionally. We have branches in Mbale, in Gulu, in Hoima, and in Barara, where we're training SMEs for absolutely no charge. We've trained about 1,200 businesses to date. And we're intervening on the key areas that I think, other than funding, will lead to a successful participation of SMEs. And that is getting the governance piece right, getting bookkeeping and record keeping right. And I believe the PS of Energy mentioned it at the beginning, that a lot of SMEs are unable to participate on just missing out on small little detail. So we're trying to help enhance these SMEs' ability to compete by intervening in those areas, because that also unlocks funding for them. So getting the house in order, making sure that you have all the governance pieces together, your compliance pieces together. And we've set up some really successful modules to intervene on this. So again, I offer up, Stanbic, please do sign up. We're now doing them online, which has allowed us to even scale them a lot more. We really do need to get our fair share of that 15 to 30 billion. My estimates, if we can get 25 to 30% of that spent locally and supporting local businesses, we will have a much, much higher impact on the GDP going forward. Those were my final thoughts, Sam. Thank you again for listening.
Very much, and also just for full disclosure purposes for the viewers, I must also mention that Patrick is our vice chairman for the Chamber of Mines and Petroleum as well. So we get very useful insights from him on that side. So thank you, Patrick. And Cyprian, I hope your connection, where we can still get you on for some final thoughts. I hope he hasn't gone off to an early lunch. Ah, he's here. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's...
Maybe on the screen.
Okay. I think Cyprian, I hope that the viewers can hear you, but we've still got a slight technical hitch here. My sincere apologies on that side. I believe that we are ready. I think let's try one more time. Cyprian, if you can just conclude for us, we should be able to hear you now. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So in conclusion, I think for me, the most important thing in terms of standards is to create awareness to all the stakeholders that are involved in this project so that we understand how to embrace this in terms of sustainability, health and safety, and also training the necessary competence that we need. And more importantly, making sure that all the trainings that are delivered can stay within the country for future development.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Cyprian. For the viewers, we've got a lot more coming in. We've got day 2 happening tomorrow. I want you to stay tuned in there. I want to give the mic back to my co-host, to Pamela, so she can close this session for us.
Thank you very much, Sam, and thank you very much to our panelists and all the presenters that we've been with since morning. And as Sam has mentioned, today has only been day 1. We have day 2 tomorrow starting at the same time at 10 a.m. in the morning. So please do tune in. And for those that have not been able to watch the event, there are recorded videos on the NBS page, YouTube page, as well as the Uganda Chamber of Mines and Petroleum. So do look up those videos or share them with those that have missed this event so that we keep all the Ugandans and interested parties informed. Thank you very much, and thank you NBS for hosting us. Yes. We look forward to returning tomorrow.
Yeah. And Pamela, just before we conclude, just so that you understand, when we're talking about local and national content, this wouldn't have been possible without NBS, our local partner. Everything that you're seeing, everything that's been done in their studios, in this kind of an environment, under the SOPs, NBS has proven that we can, as Ugandans, get the message out. So thank you, NBS.